Your brain has been somewhere else today, probably several times already. You were in a conversation and it quietly slipped out to check on something from last week. You read a paragraph and realized, somewhere in the middle, that you hadn't absorbed a word. You drove somewhere and arrived with no memory of the journey. This is not a you problem. A Harvard study tracked 2,250 people throughout their days and found that their minds was somewhere other than where they actually were for 47% of waking hours. Not during boring tasks, during things they enjoyed, during conversations with people they liked. And here's the part that stopped the researchers cold. It didn't matter where the mind had gone. Happy thoughts, worried thoughts, neutral thoughts, being elsewhere was the variable. The mind can drift somewhere pleasant and it still makes you subtly, persistently, less content than if you'd just been here. You're in good company. Almost everyone is. And then there are those other people. You know who they are. The colleague who moves through a chaotic day without the usual background hum of stress. The friend who, when you tell them something difficult, is actually there for it, not half composing their response while you're still talking. The person who doesn't seem to be processing last week or pre-living next week. They're just here, fully occupied with whatever is in front of them. They're not calmer by nature. They're not running a meditation practice you don't know about. They just seem to have a different relationship with where their attention actually is. And it's slightly baffling, and if you're honest, a little enviable. Here's what the psychology actually says about them. What those people have found isn't a mood, a personality type, or the result of a particularly calm life. It's a habit of noticing something most people walk past every day. And it starts with understanding what the mind is actually doing when it's not here. Picture a group chat on a Thursday. Someone asks a question at 9 a.m. By noon, there are 30 replies, 2 arguments, a complaint about the coffee machine, and a side thread no one remembers starting. Everyone is reacting. Everyone is there. Except one person who just wasn't. Not because they're antisocial. They'd been in back-to-back meetings all morning, fully occupied with what was in front of them, and the chat simply hadn't come up. By the time they saw it, the whole thing had resolved itself. That's not a personality type. That's a different relationship with attention. The brain has a system researchers call the default mode network. It's a set of regions that kick in automatically the moment attention has nothing specific to do. Left alone, it starts running. Recent memories, upcoming conversations, what went wrong last week, things that haven't happened yet. It's not a flaw. This kind of mental time travel kept people alive for most of human history. Planning mattered. The problem is, it doesn't ask permission. You don't decide to rehearse next week's difficult conversation for the 4th time. It starts on its own, and by the time you notice it, it's been going for a while. Here's where things get interesting. The people who've actually cracked this don't describe clearing their minds or achieving some state of calm. They describe noticing a gap between what's actually happening and the story they're running about what's happening. The difficult meeting is real. This shouldn't be happening. I can't handle this. When will this end? That's the commentary track playing over the top of it. And the commentary, it turns out, costs more energy than the meeting itself. Psychology has a name for the skill of catching that gap. Decentering. Which sounds like therapy speak until you understand what it actually means. Not stopping the thoughts, but seeing them as thoughts rather than as facts. The thought, "this is going badly," isn't evidence that things are going badly. It's a mental event happening right now, produced by a brain doing what brains do, and you can watch it without obeying it. People who practice this don't describe peace. They describe something more specific. The thought is still there, they can see it, and it just doesn't have the same grip it used to. Here's the finding that surprises most people. The first time someone genuinely experiences this isn't usually during a meditation retreat or a quiet weekend away. It's in a crisis. A serious diagnosis. A sudden loss. The kind of event where the usual background noise simply stops because the urgency is so complete there's no room for yesterday or next month. There is only now. And now, it turns out, is smaller and more manageable than the version the mind had been constructing. People who've been through something like this often describe the same strange thing. One of the worst periods of their life was also one of the first times they were genuinely present. Not because they chose it, because the noise fell away. Which means presence isn't something you build toward in calm conditions. Crisis gets there by force. The actual skill is learning to get there without needing the crisis. Here's the other thing most people don't expect. Rumination feels like thinking. It isn't. Replaying a difficult event, searching for a better ending, running it through again, looking for where it went wrong. That's not problem solving. That's the default mode network filling time. Worry is the forward version of the same thing. Both feel productive. Neither changes anything. Both burn through attention that could be used somewhere else. What breaks both loops isn't analysis or willpower. It's noticing you're in one. Simply recognizing I'm replaying something, or I'm running catastrophe scenarios, creates a gap between you and the thought. That gap is the whole mechanism. Not resolving the thought, not arguing with it, just seeing it clearly enough to stop being inside it. Those slightly baffling, quietly enviable people tend to look similar from the outside. They move through the same busy, difficult days as everyone else, but they're better at finishing one thing before starting the next. Not because they're more disciplined, but because they've stopped splitting attention between the task and the running commentary on the task. They can sit in a difficult conversation without mentally composing their reply while the other person is still talking. They carry uncertainty differently, not because they've resolved more of it, but because they've stopped treating every open question as something that needs to be mentally settled right now. And they describe time differently, not slower, more complete. Like the day actually happened, rather than passing while they were somewhere else. They tend to do better in difficult moments, not because they're tougher, but because they're not already running a background process when the difficult moment arrives. Their attention wasn't elsewhere to begin with. They're not different by nature. They just notice something most people haven't looked for. 47% of waking hours is a lot of time to spend somewhere you're not. Most of it isn't chosen. The wandering isn't a character flaw, it's the factory setting. What makes those quietly occupied people interesting isn't that they've achieved something difficult, it's that they found the gap between an event and the story about the event, and learned to stand in it. If you want to change your relationship with it, the research is clear. It's a learnable habit, not a personality trait. The gap between you and those slightly enviable people is smaller than it looks. And if you'd rather just stay in the 47%, honestly, the company is excellent.